Welcome back. I'm Dave Sushinsky, Director of Alumni Relations, and we are here for our third Alumni College session, Perfecting 3 Classic Cocktails. You hear that pterodactyl type screeching in the back. We actually have a nest of ospreys at the top of the chimney behind me, so they may come and go. So that's the fun of live recording in these tutorials. It's a great pleasure of mine to have Kim Deboy back. For those of you who don't know Kim, she's class of 1999. I met Kim long ago when she was working at the Green Door. I moved across the street to a house and I begged her for a job for about a year. She's now a professional photographer, and she likes being on the back side of the camera, and this is one of the rare times that she's going to be on the front side of the camera. So I know that she's
St. Mary's.
Yeah,
Only
right.
For St. Mary's.
Continual learning. So we're not here to listen to me. We're here to watch Kim make some amazing cocktails. So I hope that you follow along with us and bring them to our next session. We're going to be painting and sipping starting at 1:45. So if you started with us at 10 a.m. and you saved your eggs from the Eggs Benedict for the composting that we just did, the garden students, they brought us some mint for our mojitos. And so we're trying to tie all these things together. So if you've been with us since the beginning, thank you. Please take photos of your session while you're trying to do these cocktails, and at the end we want to see your cocktails. Post them on Instagram or on Facebook, the hashtag SMCMAW20, and we're going to pick one lucky winner to get a $50 gift card from the campus store. So with that, I want to pass it to Kim.
Hey guys. So I know that a lot of you that are watching probably already know me. Like Sush said, I am class of 99. I actually started bartending at the Green Door during my senior year. When I walked across the stage at graduation, somebody actually yelled, "Get me a beer." So I've been in the service industry for about 25 years now. After 8 years at the Green Door, I moved to the Eastern Shore, and I've bartended lots of places from Ocean City boardwalk dive bars to fine dining establishments. So I've got a lot of experience that I'd like to share with you. Alumni Weekend is my absolute favorite weekend, and a lot of people know that too. If you've been here, then you've probably seen me posted up under a canopy on the townhouse greens, and I've probably given you a Jell-O shot or 12 because that's kind of my thing for Alumni Weekend. But yeah, so I'm super happy to be here and share some cocktails with you folks. What I want to do, I chose cocktails that are simple building blocks to help you learn the basic techniques of cocktail building. So I kind of want to present you with those rules and building blocks so that you can eventually learn to break those rules and actually turn these cocktails into things that suit your specific palate. So that's what we're going to learn. So let's start with all the tools you're going to need today. If you're playing along at home, several of these recipes do call for a simple syrup, which is a mixture of water and sugar. I have mine pre-made, but if you haven't pre-made yours, the simple way to do that is either on your stove, you want to bring a cup of water to a simmer, add a cup of sugar so it's equal balance, and just stir until it's dissolved. You can also actually make simple syrup right in a mason jar if you have one. If you put warm water in the jar with the sugar and shake it just until it's dissolved. It takes a little more time than the stove method, but that's an option. You're going to need something to mix your drinks in. So we've got lots of different options here. These are shaker tins that I'm sure you've seen in bars before. This, shockingly, is my at-home shaker, which has a built-in strainer there, which you can see, and I'll be using that one. There's several different things you could use to strain. This is a Hawthorne strainer. That's a classic one that you've probably seen in bars as well. It goes into the shaker like this, and then you pour to strain. There's different types of strainers too. This is a julep strainer, and then you've got a fine mesh sieve as well. We're going to be using the mesh sieve to double strain one of our cocktails. So if you have any straining method, that would be helpful. Something to juice our citrus. I use a handheld juicer like this. You can use an electric juicer, or if you cut a lemon in half and you have a fork, you stick the fork in the middle of the lemon and squeeze it with that, so that way it macerates the pulp and you get the most juice out of it. So there's lots of different options there. And then we also need a muddler for one of our drinks. Or if you don't have a fancy overpriced one like this, you can just use the back of or the end of a wooden spoon. That works perfectly. Last but not least, we need a measurement tool. I'm sure if you've ever sat at my bar before, you've noticed that I free pour my drinks. That is something that comes with years and years of practice because when you're free pouring from a bottle of alcohol, there's a lot of factors that changes the amount that you're going to pour. How much liquid is actually in the type of pourer that you're using, the angle that you pour at makes a difference, the amount of air that gets into the bottle. There's a lot of factors that change when you're free pouring. So what I suggest is to use a shot glass because that way you're getting the consistency and balance of flavors so that you can make the same cocktail every time you make it. It will taste the same. These shot glasses are 2 ounces total. The white line here is 1 ounce. So that will help you measuring. I don't know what you're using at home, but most standard shot glasses are 2 ounces. Or if you just want to wing it, that's always an option as well. If you think you have a good eye for measuring. All right, so we've got our tools, we've got our simple syrup going. Our first cocktail we're going to start with is a margarita. So we are going to make 2 different ones. Now, my first message in this margarita lesson is not to ever buy pre-made margarita mix. I know that it's used in a lot of restaurants and a lot of people do purchase it to use at home. The reason I say that is because number one, fresh fruit is always should be your first choice. The flavor difference is incredible. Pre-made mixes tend to be overly sweet and syrupy, so they drown out the flavor of the tequila. And surprisingly, we actually do want to taste the tequila. So we're just gonna use fresh limes. So let's get those together. And recipe-wise, I sent Sush a couple of links. I don't know if you have them to throw up in the chat.
I'll do that.
There is a margarita recipe link. I chose very simple website links with just basic recipes so that way we can customize and move on from there. So with our margarita, we're actually going to make 2 different kinds. We're going to make a classic first. And this is where I'm going to talk about flavor preferences. So as far as brand names go, I really don't have, I think everybody should try all the tequilas and decide which one they prefer. I prefer Blanco tequila just because of its subtle and more smooth flavors. Reposado tequilas or gold tequilas, as you may see, are aged and have a more oaky flavor. So if that's your flavor preference, then absolutely choose that. I am not going to advocate any specific brands. I have my favorites, and I hope you have yours, and that you just use what you like the most. So we're using a silver tequila. You're also going to need an orange liqueur and limes. And shockingly enough, those are the only 3 ingredients in a classic margarita. So we're going to start with some ice in our shaker, 2 ounces of our tequila. Are my hands shaking? We're going to do 1 ounce. Thank you. 1 ounce of our orange liqueur, triple sec. Some people use Cointreau, which is a much higher priced version of triple sec. And if you don't have any orange liqueur, you can also just use an ounce of orange juice if you're trying to get that orange flavor mixed in. So then we're also going to do 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. One of my favorite cocktail books is from a bar in New York City called Death and Company. And I actually have the book here with me. 3/4 of an ounce. If you wanted to see, it's that guy. You can see I've got it all marked up, and there's a lot of different pages that I have written on and tattered and taken notes on. But that's a great cocktail book because it tells you a lot about the flavors that go well together. And it's got a couple different charts that actually show you very well that, for instance, tequila loves lime juice. They go perfectly together. You'll learn later that whiskey loves lemon juice. So that book is really good at linking up those combinations for you. All right, cue the ospreys. We've got our ice in here, and now we're gonna shake like we mean it. So when you shake cocktails, as in the whole shaken versus stirred, what you're doing is you're creating texture in the cocktail. You're aerating and you're breaking up the ice cubes. And so you're creating pop in the drink itself. There's a lot of drinks that are stirred because you want them to be more smooth. And we'll talk about that later with our other cocktails. Also, we want to make sure that after we shake, we strain the cocktail over fresh ice. The reason for that is because dilution is what's happening when you're shaking and pouring the ice and shaking and breaking up the ice. So the ice that's in here is already broken up and melting, which is going to make your drink melt faster. If you pour over fresh ice, you're pouring something cold over something cold, so it's going to keep it fresh longer. And then we garnish with a little lime wedge, as so. Here's that. One change that we would make to this recipe if you were using a more budget-friendly tequila. More budget-friendly tequilas tend to have more sugar in them already, but it's a different sugar than the triple sec. What you would do, which you can actually see on the link for this recipe, if you're using a more budget-friendly tequila, what you're going to do is switch your ratios between the triple sec and the lime juice. So it would be 3/4 triple sec and a full ounce of lime juice instead. And that kind of helps to break up the harshness of more budget-friendly tequilas. So that would be the swap that you make there. So, guinea pig?
I'll try it.
Is it too early for a margarita for you? All right. What else?
Oh yeah, I could do that.
So I'm going to make another version really quickly, same way. But what we're going to do is make a variation and add watermelon. So I'm going to scoop out some of the watermelon, and it's exactly the same process. And this is a good way to make those simple variations based on what your flavor palette is. And that's what you'll learn to do as you start to learn more about what you like and how you like those cocktails. So we're going to put more ice in here with our watermelon and do it all over again. I think one of the main things that's important or what I want to focus on today, is that the important thing is how you like your drinks to taste. You're going to go to a lot of bars and restaurants or house parties or whatever, where people are going to make drinks the way that they make them, and you may or may not like the flavor combinations. There is a little something called the Mr. Potato Head practice. So with the Mr. Potato Head theory is that all the elements of a cocktail are Mr. Potato Head. So the base spirit, which in this is your tequila, is the head of Mr. Potato Head. And then each other factor, like the citrus juice or a bitters or a simple syrup or an herb, those are all different parts of the Mr. Potato Head. So the best way to experiment and make your own cocktails is to start with the base, like I'm showing you with these simple recipes, and add or make swaps out of those pieces of the Mr. Potato Head until you customize it to a drink that you like. That's what we're all about. So the ice in here is going to break up that watermelon that I put in there. It's kind of going to muddle for me. So let's see.
Look at that shaking technique.
This is why my arms are so strong.
All right.
All right. Oh. Got some watermelon chunks slowing it down.
Look at that.
Look how pretty. And then we'll garnish a little watermelon wheel.
Woohoo.
So there's your watermelon margarita. Awesome. So are we just moving right into the next one?
We have a question for you, Kim.
Oh, goodness.
Leanna asks if you can do the same thing with cucumber.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're learning the basics so we can break the rules, right?
Absolutely. That's our main principle. I love savory cocktails. I know I'm not as much of a sweet cocktail person, so I do enjoy, and I'll actually talk about in the whiskey smash that we're doing last, one of my favorite combinations there is a cucumber basil whiskey smash, which is absolutely amazing. So yes, absolutely try every combination and see what your favorite is.
All right.
And then I'm going to clean up a little, and then we're going to gather our ingredients for the next drink, which is a Tom Collins / gin fizz. So what you're going to need for that is obviously our gin. You're going to need lemons with this and soda water. Oh, no, you're good. Thank you. Thanks. I'm just going to rinse this stuff out.
All right, and if you have any questions or comments for Kim, throw them in the chat, and I will relay those to her as she's transitioning. She said at the beginning, before we started live, you have to be nice. I know she has some friends on here from back in the day, so be polite. There may be children watching, believe it or not.
Yeah, we're trying to keep this family friendly.
Yeah. So far, so good.
All right. So Tom Collins is a very simple cocktail that is a really great one to put into the Mr. Potato Head formula because it can easily be swapped into a vodka Collins, or if you use whiskey, it's called a John Collins. So it's definitely a good one where you can customize flavors to your liking. This is one that we're not going to shake. It gets built right in the glass that it's going to be drank in. So we're going to add ice to our glass. All right, so we also need our simple syrup for this recipe, which I forgot to say, so I hope yours is ready. So we're just going to build right in our glass here, 2 ounces of our gin.
That's why I like the testing so much. There's 2 ounces.
Yes. Most bars, I think, pour 1.5 ounces, but we're making these drinks at home, so we can do whatever we want.
All right.
All right, so 2 ounces of our gin, and then we're going to do 1 ounce of our lemon juice.
I have a question, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a type of gin that you recommend specifically for a Collins?
Specifically for a Collins. Well, as far as gins go, I know a lot of people have trouble coming to terms with gin. One of the biggest things I hear is either I don't like gin or I don't like whiskey. But that's just because you haven't had it made correctly. My favorite gins, a lot of gins can be sort of piney because of the juniper and everything that's in them. I am a huge fan of Bar Hill gin, which is made in Vermont. It's also made with local honey from beekeepers right there near the distillery. So it's just really smooth and I think super mixable and doesn't have that kind of sometimes offensive pininess. So I think it's a really good one for cocktails. But we are using Bombay Sapphire today. I'm okay with that. All right, so we've got our gin in there. We've got our lemon juice, and then we're doing 3/4 ounce of our simple syrup.
And while you're on the simple syrup, I have a question that says, could you use maple syrup in a pinch?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Maple syrup is actually a really good one to substitute in that Mr. Potato Head formula because it brings in a little more richness than a straight simple syrup will do. Honey also works as a great sweetener. And agave actually works really well as a sweetener too. So I think I actually brought some agave, but I forgot to use it in my margarita. All right, so we've got everything built into our glass already. And then what you do is top with your soda water, which does some of the stirring for you. But then you just give it a little stir. And then we garnish with a lemon. And that is our classic Tom Collins. Put my guinea pig to work again.
Yeah.
There you go.
So gin is my favorite of the liquors, so
Yes,
I'm definitely going to hop on this one. Yes, that's the one I'm going to be taking to our sipping and painting.
That's the one he took home yesterday, too.
Right.
The cool thing about Tom Collins, like I said, easily customizable, but one of my favorite drinks is a gin fizz, and this steps right into a gin fizz. So earlier with our Eggs Benedict, they saved the egg whites for me to use, so I'm going to use that. So with our gin fizz, that's the only difference. The recipe is exactly the same. All we're gonna do is add the egg white, but the process is different. So what you do is you add your egg white. How many eggs is this?
That's probably 2.
Okay, so you're gonna do 1 egg white. We'll do an ounce. We'll say an ounce for measurement purposes. You're not gonna put ice in your strainer this time because this is a process that we call dry shaking. We're gonna shake some of the ingredients together first. So you do the egg white and you do your lemon juice. I always make a mess when I'm bartending, so I hope you guys too. I hope it's not just me. Ooh. And then we're gonna add our simple syrup. And those 3 ingredients we're going to dry shake together. What dry shaking does, especially with an egg white, is breaks up the proteins that are in there and helps to emulsify it with the lemon juice and the sugar so that it gives you that creamy, frothy mouthfeel, which is something that everybody likes talking about. So, where's my cap? All right. So you are supposed to dry shake for 30 seconds. So I don't know if you want to talk for 30 seconds while I shake.
All right.
Shake along at home.
So again, if you're following along and if you have a friend with you or a housemate or a family member, have them shoot some photos of the mess that you're making. And if you have questions, comments, things you want Kim to talk about or expand on, use the chat feature. We're having fun here, and it's past noon, so this is, I think, timely appropriate, right?
There's one thing I know, it's about drinking in the afternoon.
Right.
It's one of my skill sets. All right, was that 30 seconds?
5, 4, 3, 2,
Let's
1.
take a look. Yep, looks frothy. All right, so you notice I did not put the alcohol in there with it. So now we're gonna put the gin in. It's our 2 ounces. Oh, that's tequila, oh my goodness. I would have still drank it.
Break the rules.
2 ounces of gin, just like before. And now we add a couple ice cubes and we're gonna shake it together with the gin before we we serve. Hopefully, it will be nice and frothy looking, which it is. And then you finish with your soda water. You'll notice that the soda water didn't go into the shaker. Don't ever shake anything with carbonation. I've done it. It doesn't end up well. All right, so we've got our soda water on top. I'm gonna give it a little bit more of a stir. And then lemon garnish. All right, so Sush, you're gonna taste this and you're going to tell me how different it is from the Tom Collins, even though it's only one ingredient difference.
Twist my arm, right? Yeah, it's definitely different. It's the texture is different. I mean, the flavors are similar, but the texture, like you said, it's frothy. So if that's your thing, throw an egg in there.
Throw an egg in it. All right.
What's next, Kim?
Next is our whiskey smash, my favorite one.
It's good.
That's good. So what you're going to need for that is a whiskey. I'm pouring with a bourbon today. This is another very, very customizable cocktail. So any kind of whiskey that you enjoy, if you enjoy a rye because it's got that spicier taste to it, if you like the smokiness of a scotch, by all means, make a whiskey smash with that. So we need our whiskey. Like I said, whiskey loves lemon juice, so we're going to use lemon juice. We need our simple syrup again. And our classic smash. And then we're also going to do a blackberry variation, which is amazing. We've got local mint from the Kate Chandler campus farm that brought us over, so we're going to be using our mint there. Kind of a relative of the mint julep, if you will, or a mojito for whiskey drinkers. So you do about 7 or 8 leaves. That's what the recipe calls for. But then again, this is one of those things where you need to try it out and see what your flavor preference is. Also, different types of mint are mintier. So you're gonna, it's a lot of experimentation with what your exact ingredients are. Sometimes lemons are juicier than others, so you're gonna need more. So recipes are kind of, as we said, just a guiding point. So we've got 7 or 8 mint leaves in there. We're going to put our lemon juice as well. So it's, oh, this one we're muddling. So we're not going to juice our lemons. We're going to cut it into smaller pieces. Half of a lemon with your mint. You're going to put it right in there. And your simple syrup as well. So what muddling does is it releases the oils that are in the peel of the fruit. And also from the herbs. If you did shake with ice instead of muddling, that is a quicker way to do it, but muddling, because the pressure of it releases a lot more oils. So you've got your simple syrup. Yep. ½ ounce simple syrup, half of a lemon, and your mint in here, and then you're gonna smush it all up real good. All right. Now there's arguments on the internet about whether you're supposed to just shake whiskey or not. When you shake things with ice, it does bruise and change the texture of the liquor like we talked about before. For a classic Manhattan example, for example, you definitely don't want to shake because you're incorporating that air and you're adding texture. And with a cocktail like a Manhattan, you want to keep that smooth, so you would stir. With a whiskey smash, I shake. Some people do, other people don't. So we've got it muddled. We're gonna add our whiskey. Oh, that already? I've only had a sip, I swear. So after muddling, we put in our whiskey and our ice cubes. And again, we are going to shake. Whoa. Just to smile while you shake too. That makes you more tips.
Oh, there you
Where's
go.
my tip jar?
Uh-oh.
All right. This does not have any other mixers in it. It's usually poured in a shorter glass. So we'll see how it levels out here. Oh, I think we've got a little mint escaped from the strainer. That is beautiful. And then we garnish with a mint sprig, as so.
Ta-da.
Now, I know a lot of people, like I said, say they don't like whiskey. This is a really great way to try whiskey because you do get the flavor, but the citrus definitely combats some of the part of whiskey that people don't enjoy as much. So, Sush, I know you like whiskey.
Oh, I like everything.
And then my favorite variation on this one is with blackberries, especially in the summer when they're fresh and sweet.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on there.
There's whiskey there.
Yeah, that's, all right. This sipping and painting is going to be more fun than I thought.
So should we make a blackberry one as well?
We got time.
I was gonna say.
While you're setting up, I've got a question from Bridget, a statement and a question. She says she loves your passion and educational details, recommendations. She wants to know where your enthusiasm for cocktails stems from, other than they're really delicious if you're tasting these. And what is your all-time favorite cocktail to create?
Ooh, goodness. Let me see. As far as where my passion for cocktails comes from, I'm not really sure. I mean, it's got to go back to here.
Right.
It's got to go back to the Green Door. When I first started, when I got the job at the Green Door, my plan was to work for a year, save money, go to grad school. 8 years later, I looked up and I was still there because I loved the bartending position so much. I loved interacting with the people, and I loved making these cocktails, and I loved making people happy and seeing their faces when they enjoyed their drink. So that's where my passion comes from. And although I am not professionally bartending anymore because I am focusing mostly on photography, I do obviously make my own cocktails at home. I do, when we can have house parties again, I will definitely enjoy having house parties and making drinks with my friends. There's just such a social aspect to creating those drinks together in that kind of scenario. So what was the last one?
What's your favorite cocktail to make? Maybe not drink, make.
Goodness gracious. Honestly, it might be this gin fizz. I'm a huge fan of the egg whites. And there is also a link, I think, that Sush has, if anybody had questions about the safety of drinking raw egg whites, we do have a link that explains that most chicken farming these days actually vaccinate their chickens for salmonella. So that's a preventative measure to make it safer. If you are afraid of it in any way, shape, or form, obviously steer clear just because your comfort level is what's important. So, but it is delicious. And I love the way it looks when it comes out, the frothiness and everything. I think that's my favorite part of making it. Honestly, my favorite part of making any cocktail is seeing people's face when I set it down in front of them, because they're usually very excited. All right, so we're doing our blackberry one. So I put my blackberries and my mint in there. Our lemon's going in now. Our simple. And depending on the season and how sweet your berries are, so always taste them before, you can change, either omit the simple syrup altogether if they are super sweet, or if they're more tart, you could add more simple syrup. So that's completely that goes along with our whole making those variations, breaking the rules based on what your flavor preferences are.
I've got a question for you, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
An anonymous attendee said, can you talk about glass choice and when does it matter?
Glass choice. That is an entire tutorial on its own, honestly. So with a Tom Collins, for example, there's obviously a glass called a Collins glass. So specifically, it's a tall, skinnier glass, and that's the way that one's supposed to be served. The whiskey smash, because it's a spirit-forward cocktail, would probably be served, like I said, in a low ball glass. Margaritas, there are specific margarita glasses, but obviously a lot of us receive them in pint glasses when we go out. There's a lot of sour mix in those pint glasses, by the way.
Sure.
But yeah, glass choice is honestly, I think, something that, especially for the at-home bar, that you have to choose. I personally, at home, I like to wander thrift stores and find single pieces of nice glass, old crystal, or nicely decorated stuff, a lot of retro vintage type stuff. So that's what I have at home. And this honestly goes back to what your preference is as well. I think it should be your choice when you're making it at home. And a lot of bars, when you're out, aren't going to use the prescribed glassware anyway. But there is, in that book, the Death and Company book, there is an entire chapter that shows you every different kind of glass, what that glass is specifically supposed to be used for. And so you've got that information in there for you. Oh, I put this on. We're using all of our St. Mary's College fine glassware today. All right, so here's the prettiest drink of the day. Save the best for last. Now with this, because of the blackberry seeds, we are going to use that double straining technique that I told you about before. So you're going to use your fine mesh sieve if you have one. So you're going to pour through both this strainer and the fine mesh sieve to try to strain out those mint particles and the blackberry seeds as much as possible. Look at that color. Oop, I told you I make a mess. With whiskey smashes as well, one of the variations you can do if you like a little sparkle is to add a little soda water. And with this one, I'm going to do that just because of the color. There we go. There's our blackberry whiskey smash, which also is very good with rosemary, which I should have done with that. We could have done the mixture there. But the good thing about this is that it's that whole Mr. Potato Head thing again. You can literally plug and play all three of these cocktails to customize them, to make them how you enjoy the flavor. There's our blackberry. I'm gonna try that one too, Sue? Sure.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's a long day for you, huh?
All right. We're just getting started. Yeah, that is good. The mint is just, very prevalent. So
Absolutely.
I'm a mint fan.
And that, like I said, that is a good part of getting the mint that we did from the campus farm as well, because it is so fresh, and that makes 100% of the difference. Always fresh and local if you can.
Yeah. Well, that I think is wrapping us up. I want to thank Kim. Please send her some love in the chat feature.
Hi, everybody. I wish you were here.
Yes. So those who have not come to an on-campus alumni weekend, Kim is always the first one to sign up. She is always the first one to show up, and she's always the last one to leave.
Literally.
So if you want to connect with her in person, hopefully we'll be doing this on campus next year. I'm sure she'd love to meet you. We're going to record this. We are recording this. We're going to post this on our website next week. So if you want to revisit it and make some more cocktails, you're going to be welcome to do that. Please take photos of your cocktails if you didn't finish them already. post them to hashtag SMCMAW20, that's 20. If you have filters or privacy settings, tag at smcm.alumni to your Instagram so we can see those on our social media feed. Tune in about a half hour. We're doing sipping and painting. So if you have your cocktail, if you don't have a ton of painting supplies, grab what you can. You can paint on anything. You can paint on a canvas. You can paint on a cardboard box. We're going to have a lot of fun. And so tune in. For that login information, go to the website, look up Alumni Weekend, schedule of events. The Zoom link is on there. The password is the same thing, capital SMCMAW20. So again, thank you, Kim. I want to thank everyone who's behind the scenes, who's helping make this possible.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all for joining in and chatting. This has been our biggest tutorial so far, and we've got a lot to go. So we'll see you in about a half hour.